Hey, 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 hey. Welcome to another episode of The Side Eye. I am your host, Uptown Bobby,
And K.Clark.
and we are back yet again. I hope everyone's having a good summer. I hope everyone's being hydrated.
Mm.
I hope everyone is trying to get as much AC as possible. It's hot out here, y'all, and whew, luckily fall is on the way. So hopefully that's a chance for us to cool off a little bit. But if you pay attention to the way the world is going, these summers only gonna get hotter. So let's
hmm
just try to take care of each other and stay as cool as can be. Speaking of hot, K.Clark, what do you think about the the now it's finally over? If I first of all, I never well, I'm not gonna lie. I paid attention to the DNC before, right?
Mm.
Like we all did. This first of all, just a warning to our fans. This is going to be a politics heavy episode. So if you're tired of talking about politics, I totally understand. Tap out. It's okay. No hard feelings. We still love you. See you next episode. But because it's fresh on our minds, it's over. We're just going to talk about the DNC and just the political climate for a little bit because it's a lot going on. And I know you're like, oh, this is a pop culture podcast. Why are we talking about politics? Well, unfortunately, politics seeps into everything. And one of the things we're going to talk about is the celebrity worship that happened through this whole convention and the way pop culture has just become an important part for these political parties. It always has been, but it just feels oh no, so centered, like celebrity centered. So we're going to talk about that this episode. So, like I said, if you feel like this is too much, you're tired of discourse, you don't want to talk about nothing about politics, you just want to tap out, go ahead, do your thing. But this is going to be the majority of the episode. So, sorry. Uh, moving forward, the Democratic National Convention just wrapped up in Chicago. And you and I both kind of were like on the sideline, like, oh, what's going on? And
Yeah.
I didn't think this would be a good place to talk about it, but I mean, hey, why not? Shit, this is what we do. This is what we're doing. We're talking, and yeah, pop culture plays a big part in what we talk about in this podcast. But like I just said, celebrities are centered in these conventions. Celebrities are centered in this political race. So why not talk about the marriage between these two on a episode? So here we are.
Hmm. yeah, so like I said, DNC happened this week in Chicago, famous site of the infamous 1968 protests over the Vietnam War turned very violent, very chaotic. This was not that though there were protests. But like Rob said, and this has been an ongoing thing in our private conversations since I wasn't thrilled to vote in terms of Biden, or I was not thrilled about Trump. I was thrilled about Biden, and then when Kamala was announced after Biden decided not to drop out of the re-election bid, um, my thoughts were, oh, okay, that makes sense, but also like, damn, because what came to my mind and what I saw unfolding in my timeline and amongst various people that I see or people I follow online or even offline things is that this immediate sort of wellspring of not just appeal, because enthusiasm is important, in an election, in anything, but especially, politics is important people to feel motivated and feel excited about what's happening so that can drive action. But what I saw immediately was this groundswell of like standum, the same standum that people have, like for Nicki Minaj or Beyonce, so on and so forth. I mean, I thought about Kamala. I saw the AI art, compared to people that's like Captain America. I saw AI art with her as like hooking up with Jesus. I saw AI. I saw AI. I saw AI art with like just little girls being inspired by Kamala. the immediate scandal of it all just maybe go because particularly I think as black millennials, most of our first the first president we ever voted for was Obama. And if you were there in '08, I know the Gen Z black kids kind of look at us askance now. It probably now look like what's so great about them, some of them anyway. But if you were there in '08, it was probably the equivalent of our of a political it was probably the political equivalent of Thriller, the album by Michael. Like it was like a thing that you never thought would happen was happening right in front of your eyes. And just the pageantry of it all, the historic nature of it all, the sheer bigness of it all swept a lot of us up. And we immediately people became bigger than just being a president. It was like, no, he's just not going to be a president, he's going to be the president. He's going to solve all the problems and all the isms and everything will be okay. And he will be there. He'll be specifically our president. Now, looking back now, over 16 years later, about 16 years later, that course is not trying to be true. And I was hopeful, or I was thinking that hopefully now that we're all, inching closer to middle age, that we maybe are a bit hip to that. And some folks, I would say some folks probably are. I'm not going to characterize every person that supports Kamala as that. But there definitely are a faction of folks who are some online termed, I think a YouTube essay is called, I think left this too, but can't think of the exact name, I'm sorry. But he turned on the Black Excellence Brunch crowd. You definitely see them going all out, and that's the crowd that's like, usually college educated, belong to a Greek organization, upwardly mobile, indulge in a bit of respectability politics, but about getting their money, like a little Law and Order. And so all those folks are really be going over Kamala and just going all out to the point where I'm like, did we learn anything or did we not learn anything from Obama? In terms of like getting full on into the standum, so that's something that's really I've been raising the eyebrow at, and it's really bothering me. And the DNC just hide it even more because not only was that element in terms of the stand-up, but also the celebrity of it all, just the idea like these memes and like the quote unquote feel good moments of like the Obamas dragging Trump and everything else, and top in this also the ignoring the Palestinian uncommitted protesters, uncommitted voters, not allowing any Palestinian Americans to speak, so it's a combination of all that, and the fact that since she's been announced that like any criticism, particularly criticism from leftist black folks, or some white folks too, but I would primarily follow black leading leftists online, things like that. Any criticism of Kamala or any question of Kamala is met with this like, oh, so you want Trump? You want Trump? And it's like, no. Everybody, uncommitted voters, black leftists, none of them want Trump. They don't want Trump. I don't want Trump. It's like, and it's like, it's this almost religious fervor to it. Not as bad as it is on the right, but it's like this element of like religious fervor to it that's like making my antennas go up because I grew up with some of that shit. And that shit don't turn out good, and so that is what has really been bothering me. It's not so much people like, when you get in the booth, I know there's been a lot of talk, online mostly because in probably in person too, but there's been a lot of discourse about if you vote for this, if you vote for Kamala, then you don't care about Palestinians, or if you don't vote for Kamala, then you get to vote for Trump and so on and so forth. If you get in the booth, it's really between you and your vote. You believe in God, I guess between you and God, but whatever. But if you get in the booth, somebody somewhere's gonna think you an asshole, or somebody's gonna think you stupid and naive. So you just vote for what you feel is best. But beyond that, what's bothering more is the standing and almost religious fervor over her candidacy, and it makes me feel like we're gonna see history repeat itself to where people's eyes are gonna glaze over, particularly liberals. People's eyes are gonna glaze over and gonna think everything's solved, and then a lot of this vim and vigor is gonna go away. And in the meantime, MAGA is gonna mutate into its next form, and then someone worse and more confident than Trump's gonna come along, and then we have another white lash, and we'll be back in the same shit. So, all that said, like, what are your initial thoughts about the DNC and what you saw?
Similar sentiments. I'm very annoyed with a lot of stuff I see because you would think after surviving the Trump era, well, honestly, scale back. You would think after experiencing the Obama years and then going into the Trump debacle and then surviving the pandemic, and before we even get there further, all um the police murders of black people, and at the hands start. I mean, like what really was like the changing point for a generation, I feel like, was Trayvon Martin. Then Mike Brown, and then it just shifting to, I guess you could say, some radicalized, mindsets. But I think we learned quickly that those moments were fleeting, very short term as far as change. A lot of people use those moments to prompt themselves up and also make money, which, I mean, it happens, but also it felt kind of dirty to see people use that as a moment, as a launching pad to another career. It just felt a little icky. So now it's like we're doing the same thing again. If anything, it feels like a regression because, like you mentioned with Obama, we were young. We were like 18, 19. That was the first time we got to vote for president. Well, we were a little older than 18, 19, but anyway, that was the first time I voted, right? And it felt like something new, right? It felt like a moment like it was ours. We were believing in democracy. This is our turn. Now this is us running the show, blah, 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 blah. And when you're young, you believe stuff like that because, I mean, that's what you know. That's what you've been taught. And now you get to see history and all that stuff. But to survive all that time and all these examples, and now seeing people our age and older doing the same shit again, it is very frustrating because the internet is more open now than it was then. Now we have so many different forms of social media. Back then we just had Facebook. MySpace was kind of there, and whatever. But now it's like a whole different beast of content and information flowing out there. A lot of it's not good. A lot of it's bullshit. But there's still so much that Gen Z knows, and like even Gen Alpha. And I see a shift in some of them as far as like the balancing things. Now, do I think sometimes? Do I think they're being a little extreme sometimes? Yes, but when any generation has a moment of resilience, a moment of like trying to shift and make change, there's going to be extremism. So there's going to be violence. There's going to be a bloodshed, and that's what they seem to be pushing towards. I mean, not as extreme as other examples, but that seems to be the course of action, right? So it looked very bleak for Joe Biden when they were saying things like, "Well, remember in November, we're not going to vote. You won't. You're not going to get a vote." And then with Kamala, when Joe, bowed out and Kamala came, it's like this. It's like 2008 all over again. The same hopeful feeling, that people want to feel, and the you might as well say yes, we can. You might as well just bring it back. They even because it just there's a writer named Nate Jones. He wrote this. He calls it Obama Core, and he's talking. He wrote it on the Vulture. I have to share it with you later. And he just talks about how all of this going on is reminiscent of that moment, and it's like the same shit. Like the people are giving you the same talking points about history, about change, about hope, all this shit. It's just in a different package. Because Kamala and Obama have like similar like paths to this shit. Like multiracial, biracial. Um, you know, she
Background.
didn't go to she didn't go to an Ivy League for undergrad, but very you know,
They fit the black
talented,
excellence mode, talented 10th,
right? The
all that.
black,
Yeah.
exactly, talented 10, black excellence, soon to be high ranking official somewhere. And, decided to turn towards politics, after being a prosecutor and whatnot. And now they're on the cusp of being, leader of the free world, whatnot. So it's very reminiscent of Obama. Even got an old white guy on the side of him, even though they're the same age, but he just
Right.
looks so much older than her.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's like the same movie, except this time, uh, you got a bigger villain, and that villain's Trump. And it's like, man, we seen this movie before. We really gonna do the same dog and pony show, like the same shit. And this time, it just seems more celebrity centered. Like I feel like with Obama, they were kind of like, let's keep the niggas out. Like, let's bring in the niggas. Let's bring in the nice niggas with suits, but let's leave it. Like Young Jeezy, like when Obama won, they
President
did
Black.
not. Yeah, my President Black. I remember people. I think Ice Cube and other people was like, y'all kind of chill out on the songs. Let's make sure he wins first, because that song came out well before he won.
Mm.
And people were kind of like telling, like, shh, like, all right, settle down now, don't get too excited. Y'all acting too niggerish. But now, flash forward to 2024, it's like, man, own this shit, embrace it. They got Little John doing roll calls, and they got they had the Megan Atlanta thing before the convention where they had
Mm-hmm.
Quavo and what's the other one, Offset, and then she's quoting them. It's so fucking cringe to see like this just pandering and also just performing, like, all politics perform, right? This is Politics is a very performative, like, form of office, like form of it's a job. It's just you're acting a lot. Like the speeches, the goodwill, just the whole presentation is an act. But this just feels like so overdone. And it just feels like we're not going to it just feels like we're not moving forward. It feels like the same song and dance, just with a different person in place. And it's like, when are we gonna get done with the whole lesser of two evils thing? Like, when are we gonna let people actively criticize and hold politicians accountable without comparing them to people who are damn near supervillains? Like, like it's really frustrating to be a person right now who want. I mean, I'll be honest too. I don't like participating in the way America has us vote, especially for the president. I don't like it. I don't like the electoral college. I don't like the format. I don't like the pressure. I don't like none of that shit. And then black people have always been gaslit and bullied into voting because what they tell us since we've been young, people died for
Died.
it.
Mm-hmm.
People sacrificed. It was illegal. All of that shit is true. So I honestly vote out of guilt and being gaslit. Like, that's actively why one of the main reasons why I vote. And that's not good, but that's just the reality. Unfortunately. So
Well,
that's
yeah,
why I
yeah.
vote. And
I get it
I'm
because my okay, finish me saying.
no, I was just saying that's the only reason why I vote.
Mm.
So now I'm in this position of being like double gaslit because, one, people telling me my whole life I gotta vote because I'm black and people died, and it was legal at one point. Then I'm told that, hey, well, if you don't vote, that's a vote for Trump. So it's just like, damn if I do, damn if I don't. So
Or before a third party.
right, and then they tell you that's a vote for Trump.
Right.
So
I'm, yeah, definitely with the gas city because I'm sure like you get the same thing too when you come around, especially like older family members. Actually, did you vote? You voting for them? Make sure you vote on which I get it, especially local level, state level. Out that yeah, that you can immediately see the consequences of a state election, a local election. Yeah, but yeah, nationally that is yeah, I definitely have experienced that too. I think it was disappointing to me, particularly folks who were so critical of Joe Biden, so especially pick on the issue of power sign, free power sign, and thing, and and all about that, and all about, encouraging people to be uncommitted, so on and so forth. It's like as soon as Kamala came in and the energy came in, money came in first and foremost. Then you had and then, like I said, with this DNC convention, you had the Obamas, dragging Trump, and like, people getting their kicks off of that, which fine, but like it's like all it took was some music, some feel good moments of like them dragging Trump, and some memes, and y'all just all in. Not just like, I'm voting for Kamala, but I'm gonna, now some people are. Some people saying yes, I'm voting for Kamala, but I'm also gonna be critical. Because again, I don't want to characterize everybody that's voting for Kamala as like an uncritical barb or something. Some folks are taking a position like, I'll vote for her, but but X, Y, and Z. But more than a few folks, especially people at the convention, who were like very stone faced about Biden, all in on Kamala, like she's just, the greatest. Like it felt like a coronation, like I told you in the chat. I felt like it didn't feel like a rally. It felt like a coronation, and it's like, what? I mean, you get down like to brass tacks. I mean, what is like the big difference between her and Biden, really? Because they really haven't done much to differentiate her from Biden. If anything, they try to keep her attached to Biden, almost to say like she's a continuation. So if you want all that enthused about Biden, then what has you so enthused about Kamala? Other than the she's younger, she's more energetic. I mean, I get that part of it, but what's all that different now? That's all of a sudden people went from like womp to like, yes, queen. Like I don't, I can't quite get there. It's like I said to somebody in other recently, I said, I get it that she's a better alternative, that she's better than the alternative. She's better than what we had in terms of energy and presence before. But it's like, I guess that's probably been one effect too of like social media expansion since we were since Obama, is that, in Obama, yeah, you had Facebook and things like that, but you didn't have the instant access we have now to other people outside of the US who are experiencing the effects of American imperialism, whether that's in Gaza, whether that's in the Sudan, whether that's in Congo, so on and so forth. So we are seeing the alternative, it's harder to keep up the propaganda, the indoctrination, as far as like, or the narrative, to put it another way. It's very easy to throw it in your timeline and see somebody literally in Congo, literally in Gaza, literally in Sudan, talking about how terrible this is, and showing you the direct consequences of America's actions. And so it's hard for me just to go up and stand and say, yes, little black and brown girls will see somebody they can look up to. It's like, okay, yeah, but also look at this over here and over there and over there. And see how the shit that you see in any downtown area or any black area town, the surveillance cameras and things like that are also first tried out in Gaza. And see how the police collaborate with the IDF, which is why we have these cop cities being built in a place like Atlanta. All this is happening with black folks in charge. So,
right, yeah, I agree, and this is where identity politics and the whole idea of representation matters is taken too literal. Like, I just feel like you just mentioned like a little girl seeing Kamala getting inspired. Don't we have enough? Like, don't we have? I mean, this point we have so many great black people. And I will take this moment to actually acknowledge that it is historic. Kamala Harris running for president. It is historic. Her potentially winning and everything. It's historic. But I just get so sick of that example, because it's like, y'all said the same thing about Obama, and it's like, how many niggas just really said, "Oh man, I'm gonna be president" or some shit like that. Like, I mean, did it really shift the culture or some shit like that? Did it really inspire enough black men to be like, I'm gonna be Obama? No, not really. Well, it just made niggas be like, we had a black president.
Not even just that, just the fact that alone, it can be used as cover for things like the drone strikes, like the deportation, the things that weren't great about his presidency. The fact that he had the Senate and the House enough power to sort of codify Roe v. Wade, but they didn't do it.
Right. He
no
could
state.
have. He let that old ass lady bully him and not like leaving. Like I feel like he put enough pressure on RBG to get the fuck out, to bow down gracefully. Then maybe Roe versus Wade never happened, or I mean, the reversal of Roe versus Wade never happens. It's so much stuff that happened during his presidency that people kind of turned a blind eye to or didn't really talk about because they were so. It's kind of like the Clinton years. People act like, especially black people. Black people have this dangerous obsession with like politics that take on identity politics. Like Bill Clinton, right? Black people, and this was before social media. I don't know what comedian said it. I don't know who the fuck said it first, but Bill Clinton got labeled as the first black president because he played a fucking saxophone on Arsenio Hall and he was from the South. And that was enough for black people to say that stupid shit and act like it was true and just make jokes about him getting his dick sucked and other shit. Like, oh, he a real nigga because he got a dick sucked in the Oval Office. That's some nigga shit. And it's just like that's what y'all demote what being black is like being incompetent at your job or being cool or just doing music. That makes a white man from Arkansas fucking down with the niggas. And that what pisses me off about politics with black people. It's like it's a game that they've been so desperate to get in that they will take any type of crumbs just to say or have a moment. And now that they have people who closely resemble them, now they definitely got skin in the game now. And I'm like, when are y'all gonna fucking wake up and realize that worshiping politicians is not cool? It gets us no fucking where. It hasn't. It never will. And it's desperate. It's needy. It makes us look so. I hate to bemoan people who actually like that shit because these are all people that I know and love. I'm in a relationship with somebody who loves the Democratic Party, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with liking that party in a certain way. It's just the worship, the idolatry of it that gets annoying. The lack of accountability. Like Kamala, I first heard people criticize Kamala Harris on Twitter, and it was from the same black women who are now passing out the fact that she finna vote, like, or you know, holding her record as a prosecutor to the fire. And now people are saying, well, she didn't even do that. That's not true or whatever. And it's like, is it Uchi Wally or is it one Mike? Y'all were calling her a cop like 4 years ago. And now she's like, y'all saying Madam President already. I don't understand our obsession with just wanting a seat at the table so bad. It's just so desperate. It's just I see all these fancy niggas in these suits, these Greek niggas, these other people, and they got we're mobilizing the vote. Why don't y'all do this shit doing local? I mean, and I already know I'm gonna catch flack for that.
Some do. I
And
will
yeah, they
say
do.
some do.
They
Some do.
have initiatives. I know the alphas always do the voteless people, hopeless people thing and all that. But it's like, well, why not do these initiatives more often, other than just political season? Why not just do these things, every random Saturday or some shit like that? It's like I'm seeing all this energy put into this presidential race, like all that money raised. People were bragging about that shit. I was so disgusted because it's like y'all are bragging about raising this money for this rich person already. Not to mention the fact that she inherited a campaign in the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, she inherited Joe Biden's campaign. All that money was getting transferred to her. So why does she need more money? I'm like, we got niggas out here dying,
Right.
niggas out here hungry, and y'all got.
Yeah, because that like because people hobbling down about like uh the thing as far as like alternatives like the two parties, and people say, well, the other parties they don't have a national platform or they don't have the money or whatever. Well, look how much money got raised for her in those like in the first week of the first 72 hours. Like I think it was like 50 million from one group, like another 80 from another group or something like that, like some huge number. Like think of how all that money collectively could have gone to like
to a
local
project.
to
to the
projects
hood.
to local grassroots organizations, to third party candidates who are great but otherwise ignored because they don't have the machine behind them. Like
To a low
the
performing school.
right
like,
the coins are under the couch, but we don't seem to find them until you know it's someone who's part of the two parties, you know.
yeah.
Just like Democrats got together real quick and got that together. Nancy did her uh Game of Thrones moves and got Joe out there quick and then put Kamala in. You see how fast they got? You see how fast they organized they can be when they need to be but when it's time to pass the George Floyd Act, all of a sudden got Mnuchin bitch ass like always managed to pull up a vote here and there.
Are they performing wearing
Kente cloth
and kneeling and just shit that doesn't matter? And I think that's the frustrating part. It's so much care into shit that doesn't matter. And like they're bragging about that money they raised, but I'm like, if y'all bougie Negroes can get together and raise that much money for an already rich politician who has enough money to finish this shit, why can't y'all do this shit for like our neighborhoods and our communities and brag about that? Like, but y'all don't like being around those parts. Y'all don't like being around those people. Y'all question why those people are living the way they living and doing what they doing. But it's okay to give someone that's already rich, that's already ahead, another boost. It just befuddles me. But sometimes I wonder, like what's next? Like what happens when she wins and another 4 years pass?
That's another thing too. Or you want to say something?
No, I was just passing it on now. Like what happens next?
That's what I'm thinking about too. Another thing I was thinking about, because in her speech, which was she did a good job. She met the moment, in the ways that the folks writing the checks needed her to. I'll put it that way, because I didn't agree with parts of it, but she did what she needed to do. But that's nothing I'm talking about, because in that speech, she basically did what they did in 2020. Donald Trump is the big bad. He's evil. He's awful. He's the worst. Which is not true, but it's like he's a big bad. Get rid of him, and then we can move on or save democracy or whatever the fuck, and go back to brunch. And it's like, do y'all really not think that if he doesn't win, there already isn't like a Project 2029 set up, a Project 2023, 2033, a Project 2037, 2041? Like these are the same people who bit by bit chipped away, roped away with 50 years until it was overturned. Like, these motherfuckers play the long game. And if you think they don't have another plan in place beyond Trump to somehow get 2025 in the mix, even in the midst of a Democratic presidency, then really, really wake up and examine yourself. Because again, it's like we get these national elections. It's been this thing where, like, 2016, this is the most important election of our lives. 2020, this is the most important election of our lives. 2024, same thing. It's the most important election of our lives. But then, what do y'all do? Because we do the thing. We did the thing in 2020. We did the thing in 2016, but the electoral college fucked that up. But we did the thing in 2020. We voted for you in office. So why is it that 4 years later we're back here again in the same position?
Why?
Like,
yeah,
what are y'all doing up there? Like, it's just like, because we voted.
It's nauseating. It's annoying, but also, so let's take the conversation to another point. And this is the part of the, I guess, conversation where it's like, I want to cut Kamala the smallest piece of slack, because I'm seeing people co-opt this moment to basically practice misogynoir. And it's unsettling, to say the least. Like, I wasn't a fan of people talking about how black men are like voting for Trump and like that could shift the election, because that wasn't true. Because if you look at the numbers from the last election, like, yeah, Trump had a number of black men vote for him, but the majority of black men voted for Joe Biden, right? But now I'm openly seeing black men double down on voting for Trump while also like bashing Kamala. And the bashing has nothing to do with politics. It has bashing around sexism, chauvinism, and misogyny. It's just like the question in her race thing. I find that a pointless conversation. She has, to me, in my opinion, a Jamaican father, an Indian mother. She's biracial, and she chooses to be a black woman or consider herself to be a black woman.
Well, she's immersed
Or
herself in Black American culture.
right. And people say, well, she uses that to her advantage when she wants to. Every nigga does that. Every nigga does that to an extent. Niggas let Michael Jackson get away with that shit. Michael Jackson, like Cat Williams said famously, fucked his face up and bleached his skin. But then when he gets bullied or he feels bad, he gets the Nation of Islam to come around or whatever the fuck. Same with the other celebrities in the past. OJ, prime example. OJ said he not black, he's OJ. But when his ass get in trouble, that's when he gets the black lawyer, and then niggas turn into like, I don't know, like he Nelson Mandela or some shit. But anyway, point aside, I'm unsettled by the way I've seen some black men use this as a moment to practice a high level of misogyny, and it's unsettling. Like if you don't like Kamala for her being a politician, and you don't like any politicians, and you tell me you're not voting, that's all right, cool. Like gang, like I'm like we are one in the same. But if you tell me all this bad stuff about Kamala, and you're using like her race, and you're using I've heard people talk about her sexual history or the fact that she has a white husband, the fact that she has no kids biologically, is kind of fucking weird. It's a little weird. So that's the one part of this thing that I'm annoyed with, and I almost feel sorry for her in a way that she has to experience that from black people. But it's weird. How do you feel about that, or have you seen any of that online?
I've seen some of that as far as like her history with her romantic history and saying, oh, she, essentially implying that she slept her way to the top, which, is an ugly, misogynistic accusation. Then there's the fact that, I've seen some video that went around with some man, some washed nigga saying he couldn't vote for a black woman. So I've seen some of those reactions, the standard Ashley reaction. And then, of course, her being married to a white man, so of course, Lamar's gonna have a problem with that, and yeah, she does have her own church. She checks a lot of boxes that pushes a lot of Kevin Samuels fandom buttons. She's this highly successful woman who is married to a non-black man who doesn't have children, who doesn't have her own children. The same reason that a lot of men look misogynistic men look sideways at Oprah, for example, or Gail. They have that same sort of vitriol for Kamala in the same way. So yeah, she definitely is experiencing, and probably will experience, more misogyny war as the election gets closer. Even with Trump saying things about her, her appearance, or just mocking the way her laugh, or just the standard dumb sexist racist shit. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a bit weird, and I also wonder where are we going with that narrative, because it's like black people doubling down saying they want to vote for Trump. And don't get me wrong, I don't feel like voting for Trump is the worst thing you could do as a black person. I don't necessarily consider you to be a race traitor, but it's just like a call for attention. I see. It's like people pleading, like, look at me, please notice me. I'm being different. it's like what are we
Scott
doing?
syndrome.
Yeah. And I think Kanye kind of started it, and then it turned into it's like they kind of get it, they almost get it, because they'll say things like, what has the Democratic Party done for black people? And I'm like, okay. But then they'll be like, and Trump did this, and I'm like, oh, damn, you almost had it, and you dropped the ball right there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's weird.
I think it's definitely something like that. Some of it's contrarian. Some people would genuinely feel like the Republican Party would do better by them, but not if that may have been true at some point in the last say 40, 50 years. I don't but definitely not this current version of the party. Absolutely not. You
Nah,
know.
this current version of the party is opportunist.
They will let you get on stage and shuffle, but they would never let you in.
No, they're just like brands who co-opt trends. Like at this point, I'm surprised they haven't had like Kamala say very classy, very something, very demure. You know,
Yeah.
it's like a brand, you know. I just I just find it very it's like they play in your face, but they expect you to fall in line when it's time. It's like
Well, it gets to the whole thing of you saying, I think what you were saying, like they want, it's like it's all an effort to like to like endear themselves to you, like oh, like Tim Scott, like Tim Waltz is like he's like a dad, like he's like a high school football coach, or Kamala, she's like the cool aunt, and like or they go Bill, it's like well the Obamas, oh Michelle, like they do that shit. It's a reason why, and it's a reason why in 20 years George Bush has gone from the most hated president, one of the most hated presidents in history, to being BFFs with Michelle Obama at funerals.
yeah,
It's
passing
it's
out candy and
candy. It's all a rebrand shit because you give Trump managed to live to be like 90, 95. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw him sharing candy with somebody at a funeral. And the ugliness get glossed over because it will. Like, with Biden and Gaza, I would not be surprised if he shoved off the national stage and then shoved off this mortal coil, and then you already see it because you saw the DNC, you saw the whole thing of like now he's a great countryman, now he's a man who put the country before itself, and respectfully pass the torch to the next generation and so on and so forth. No word about even the genocide that's killed about 40,000 people at this point. No concern about how the border policy is very similar to the Republicans' policy. No concern, this all that, none of that. We agree with that. Now he's a great patriot. Now
well, he
George
was
Bush,
stubborn as shit.
right now George Bush is a man who likes to paint and share candy with Michelle Obama. He's not a warmonger anymore. So that's what they do.
Right. Another thing I want to talk about too, since we touched early on celebrity entering this political realm. What do you think is the fascination with certain celebrities outwardly supporting Trump that you really wouldn't expect? Like first it was Kanye, right? Kanye kind of set the trend. It was like, whoa, Kanye is supporting Trump. And later he kind of revealed why he did it, kind of like it was kind of like a counterculture stance, like,
Mm.
And he's always kind of been a contrarian anyway, but he doubled down in it with the Trump support, saying Donald Trump is a representation of anything can be done. Donald Trump says it like it is. Donald Trump, is anti-cancel culture. Now you have MIA doubling down and saying that she supports Trump.
Oh,
Azealia Banks has flirted with. I don't think. Right, exactly. It's just, and I think it's interesting that celebrities who choose Donald Trump that you quite wouldn't expect do it. It's kind of like they're doing this to establish I'm a part of counterculture, and I find that interesting that they're using this party and this president, well, former president, to make that claim because it's quite different from 20 plus years ago when you had George Bush, who we just mentioned, running against like John Kerry, when the whole celebrity image was basically vote or die, like anybody but Bush, you know? And no one then was like, I'm fucking with Bush. Like they painted Bush as incompetent, as silly, as horrible. Like he got a worse rep than Trump. Like, and the crazy thing about it is Bush actually had more political experience than Donald Trump. His father was a president. He was groomed to be a politician, kind of. Once he flunked out of school and shit like that, he kind of like was groomed to be a politician, and he was even a governor, and then he became president. And Trump has none of those things, but him. I guess it's him being a celebrity already, and him being a businessman. Maybe that's what makes celebrities. What do you think about this whole using
Maybe that's
Donald Trump and using MAGA as like to establish yourself as like counterculture?
maybe that's it. That's what you said, because a lot of entertainers, a lot of artists, I mean, in a perverse way, music or celebrity is I wouldn't say democratic, but it's in a sense, it's like you could be from nowhere in the middle of, from the middle of nowhere, have no connections to show business, have no leg up, so to speak, and become a huge figure. I mean, take Michael Jackson, Jackson 5. Poor black family, Military, Indiana, didn't know nobody from nowhere, but somehow became the biggest pop star that ever existed. Someone who didn't have connections, didn't come from money, didn't have the court, wasn't put to the manor born, so to speak. So even though Trump is very much to the manor born, and has been a part of and basically been protected his whole life from really any real sense of failure, he has the image of someone who sort of like does what he wants and goes against the grain and so on and so forth. So for someone like a Kanye who's a contrarian, or Azealia Banks who is kind of in that mode too, they probably look at it in the same way. It's like, oh, well, he goes against the grain and he sort of like has to sort of like, I say what I want, I do what I want, and I suffer no repercussions. And they latch on to that for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't totally get why, to be honest. Because on paper it shouldn't make any sense at all. But I don't know. I don't know actually. I really don't know why an Azalea or a Kanye. Well, Kanye is a contrarian just to be contrarian, so that makes sense. But the other ones, I couldn't tell you. Other than
Yeah,
taxes, because low key, I think if the Republican Party was less insane, if they were less insane and less and a bit more diverse in the makeup, if there were actually some prominent black faces in the makeup. Because low key, I think more than a few of our blacks, our faves are probably like small R Republicans when it comes to fiscal things.
oh,
And
absolutely.
I think, and even with bootstrap shit, if you listen hard enough. So
Oh, yeah.
I think if the program probably was more like the Democrats in appearance, they gave the appearance of propriety and weren't totally unhinged, that you probably would see a lot of some of our faves say, I'm a Republican.
Right. Yeah, it's just been morphed into like
Mm.
like if before it was co-opted by Donald Trump, the Republican Party was just more so seen as uh anti-poor, more so like a rich man's club, almost like a country club, but instead of like a church now. Now it's like a church. It's almost like a religion.
Yeah,
Uh
that's been happening, because you had the religious right come in with Jerry Falwell and the Moral Majority and Pat Robertson, that whole bunch, late 70s, through the 80s. So
right. And it's been morphed into something very different from that era.
mm,
But I also think part of them not liking like certain liberals and the way, and this is somewhat their fault too, on the liberal side, by um, rewarding virtue signaling, making everything in a competition of what's good and pure. You're not as good as me because you did this in like 2009, or you're not as awoke as me because you still believe in this. So, and this is like them taking advantage of this, though, by the way. So they take advantage of it. They're like, you can't silence me, like Kanye. I say what I want, I do what I want. It's a very Gen X way of thinking. Like, I do what I want, I say what I want. I wouldn't even say Gen X, I'll say 90s. Very 90s way of being like, you can't silence me.
hmm. Yeah, there's some of that, you know, um, but I think just some of it is just a disconnect because getting back to celebrity, even like if you've been in Congress for 20, 30, 40 years, your vision of like what America looks like is probably very different from the average American because you've been in this bubble for essentially. And you don't have you been to the grocery store recently? Have you gotten your own gas recently? Probably not. You know, do you go anywhere without a team behind you to make sure you got all your shit with you, your papers and everything else? Like, you know what I mean? So it's similar to celebrity in that sense because if you're a major celebrity, you do live in a bubble to an extent. Everything is about you and what you're doing next and what albums coming out, what movies coming out, and getting to and you have someone to handle you to take care of your house and wash your clothes, and what I mean. So they live, even though they do different things, they live in a similar sort of situation to where then if you stay in it long enough, you live in this bubble to where your sense of reality can kind of become skewed in a way. So in a way, they probably relate to someone like Trump because, like, well, shit, I got a house people, I got people that do things that do for me, and you know, yeah, I say wild shit here and there, but do I suffer? Do I sell money? Yeah, I mean, with all the sort of thing Kanye been through, he's still, I mean, he's not broke. I mean, he probably not rich as he was, but he ain't like, not applying for a job anywhere, you know. So some of us maybe that too. They live in a similar sort of like skewed reality where what is normal to them or what they see America as is probably what it was before they became famous or before they went to the DC bubble, so to speak. So in a way, they're both similarly disconnected from the rest of us, you know.
Right.
But bringing it back, I guess to Kamala and her speech. Well, big thing at the convention, everybody spoke except Palestinian Americans. The uncommitted group who famously held voted uncommitted against Biden back in the primaries in the spring. Tried to I think they met with Kamala privately, I believe, and they really wanted to push to speak at the convention, but they were not allowed to speak. They had to sell either for a private meeting or nothing at all. And what they end up doing is holding a sit-in outside, saying basically in a sense pleading their case, which was messed up. To put it mildly, just everybody's got to speak, including the family of one of the hostages, one of the Israeli hostages got to speak, and yet Palestinian Americans did not get to speak. And then in her speech she says that she wants Palestinians to have dignity and self-determination, yet also says she will always defend Israel's right to defend itself. So it's like that's that trying to have it both ways shit that doesn't quite work out. How does that work in reality? As you can have the Palestinians have dignity and self-determination, yet you always promise to arm the apartheid state that they're living under.
Right, because essentially that's what makes everything look so ugly, is that we're their arms dealer. Like
pretty much.
Yeah, we're giving them the ammunition to eradicate people, pretty much. It's so tricky to get Black people to care about that because it's kind of out of sight, out of mind, and they don't really understand the effects of that, the trickle down effects, of what's happening there can come here eventually. Or to me, it's a basic human understanding of like empathy, right? Or just to kind of like care about someone outside of yourself. And also it's a touch of American exceptionalism in there as well, that can never happen to you, or you can never experience that because you're an American. So it's hard to try to get people here to care about that, because the first thing they'll say is, well, what the fuck they gonna do for it? They're gonna ask, do they even like niggas? Do they like Black people? They don't like Black people, fuck them. Or what about the issues here in America for Black people? So they already checked out. And that's why so many of them don't really care if there's a ceasefire, especially the bourgeois Blacks, because they like, fuck they got to do with me. I'm doing good. Get money, nigga. I don't know. So It's
which the reply to that would be, Palestinians were the ones who were tweeting BLM protesters about how to deal with tear gas, you know, and how to deal with
right.
the police, the same way that Cuba, some people in Cuba were trying to get aid to people in Hurricane Katrina, but weren't allowed by the government. So other folks try. They're out there. So, I think that's where you said that American exceptionalism comes in, where it's like, they can even impact us as black folks. It's like, well, I'm an American, so they can't. So I mean, the people over there, or people using that for like, you got to put on your own mask first before you can help somebody put on theirs. It's like, well, I mean, that works if the other person isn't dead, but they are, or they're dying. So does that really work? And also the fact that um,
Right.
the connection is easy to make. It's you don't have to be that real read on history of the entire conflict to say, oh, if the IDF is collaborating with the police and the police are building these cop cities with the IDF and collaborating in changing tactics, then who are those tactics going to be used on the most? Black folks. you know, if our tax money is going to billions of dollars of money is going to fund Israel, then that means we don't have money for universal health care, or to build to repair our roadways, or to build a great transit system so we don't have to Uber and rent cars everywhere. Like that's, I mean, the dots are there. Is this how willing are you are to connect them? Because I'm not gonna sit up here and like I knew about all this, a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, because maybe I had moments where I was conscious of it, but not all the time, you know. But once you sort of like turn that light on and try to work to keep it on, it's you really start seeing how much it is connected.
Right. Yeah, it is deep. I don't hold, if you're a poor black American, right, trying to make it and you're trying to survive, I don't give you too much grievance for necessarily not being able to sympathize with what's going on over there. If you fighting and scrapping, like you think you like, of course, on the outside looking in, you would think they'll be able to relate to that, but it's kind of hard when you're so focused on getting to the next day.
Mm-hmm.
But for the black people who are more socially mobile and more aware, and let them tell it, they are politically savvy or aware, I kind of hold them under the fire more, because you claim to know this, you claim to have this awareness or this idea of global, impact and all that. Because one of the things some of those people who are in those organizations tell you about, that their organizations aren't just American, they're global. So I'm like, you should understand the global ramifications of something going on over there. And they don't really show that care, because it ain't got shit to do with them. Let them tell it. So it's really tricky. It's ugly and unfortunate, and I hope one day, well, shit, I ain't gonna say that, because one day the chickens are gonna come home to roost, and some people
I
will renew.
mean, the eggs would
How?
be the eggs would be maybe getting hatched now to keep with the metaphor. I'm just saying, you know, because
Right.
that was not allowing Palestinian Americans to speak at the DNC, and essentially just kind of like keep them on the outside, literally at the DNC. I mean that's a choice, you know, choice that she made, you know. I guess that's been another fallback saying, well, she's a VP, she don't have no power, which
I mean, she
you
has
know,
a lot for that shit.
uh,
If she
VPs.
said, I want Beyonce, like if Beyonce called and wanted directly to speak to her and asked her, "Do you want me to come?" and she said yes, that she has, like,
What I would
I,
say, the VP's power varies from administration to administration, but I guess no, because you could say Dick Cheney had a lot of power, but then could you name Jimmy Carter's vice president, in his role and what he did? Maybe not, but but again, going back to the DNC, I mean, she obviously that had to be something that had to be approved by her to have them not speak. So
right.
will that have consequences? It may, and And I'm sure a lot of people now, a lot of liberals may say like, oh well, y'all should just gouge y'all feelings for Kamala. It's like, uh, maybe not gouge your feelings, but I mean the message was sent. I mean, you know, if the we tried to go about the democratic way and make our voices heard and do all the things that you say to do, but yet this is a response that we got. So are they in their feelings, or are they just saying, well, this stuff need to move now? Obviously, you don't care. So should we put our energy to putting you in power? Because then we really don't have no leverage then.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
You don't. So all in all, do what you want to do in November. If you don't vote, I won't judge you. Yeah, it's nothing. I don't judge people who do not participate in this shit because I actually applaud you, and I wish I had your mindset. Honestly, like I told you, I've been traumatized in the voting. So yeah,
I don't. I don't judge as long as you are doing other things. Like I don't like the people who get online and just smugly say I don't vote. Like it's above me and they don't do anything else. Like I don't particularly care for the position of I told you so, or I just want to be right. Like because like nigga, when it all go down, you're gonna be in it with everybody else. Like, do you have some rocket to Mars with Elon and Bezos? I bet you don't. So I mean, so I do judge a little bit. It's like, okay, you're not voting, fine, but what else are you doing other than just smugly, finger wagging everybody else and sitting back and sipping your invisible mug, you know, you know,
right.
what other actions are you taking? Even if it don't have to be super radical actions, it could be just mutual aid or being helpful somehow in your community. But like, what if you're not voting? What are you doing to bring about the change you say that you want on paper? So I do judge a little bit for that. um, if you don't vote and just don't do anything and don't do anything at all, you know. But yeah, I mean, November, do what you feel. Like I said, as I said before, however you vote, someone's gonna think if they know about it, because I mean they have to ask you, I guess. Somebody's gonna think you're dumb. Somebody's gonna think you made the wrong choice. Somebody's gonna think you're worse than that, an a-hole, whatever else. But if you come down to it, you in the booth, you have to make a decision that you feel like you can live with. So
Right. So yeah, do your thing, man. Do your thing or don't do your thing. Um, your right as an American is to participate in this if you want to or not. So if you want to vote, vote. If you don't. If you want to pick the other person, hey, I can't stop you. Do your thing. It's like almost like but what do Christians say? My relationship with God is my business. Whatever. So do your thing. Do your thing. So on to another note, moving towards something lighter, entertainment based. We're talking about the movies. This summer was pretty big for Hollywood. I know a lot of people talk about how Hollywood is declining and no one goes to the movies anymore, blah, blah, blah. They did pretty good this year because you saw Inside Out 2 become the highest grossing animated film of all time. And Deadpool versus Wolverine became the highest grossing rated R movie of all time. So apparently some shit went right. But I also want to kind of rant a little bit about sequels. I'm sick of them. I'm sick of them. I enjoy now. I do say that while saying I did enjoy Inside Out too. It was long awaited sequel. The first one came out 2016,
okay,
2015, 2016, something like that. But I enjoy those movies, and if I would even say the second one was better than the first one. That's very rare with sequels. But Deadpool vs. Wolverine was just like, I'm ready to go. It wasn't horrible. Was it worth me putting on pants and leaving my house and then paying admission to see? No. I just I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about everything having like three more movies or adaptations after it. I think we gotta stand up to Hollywood, man. We gotta start putting our foot down on getting the same shit but just in a different can. Because I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the Marvel shit. Even they know that the shit has run its course. But you know, niggas gotta eat, so they're like, hey, let's go back to the drawing board and figure out a new way we get people to come back and watch this shit the same way they did last decade. Will it work? Who knows? But Wolverine vs. Deadpool wasn't horrible, like I said. It's just with those type of movies, it's like you kind of you're there for like the gratuitous violence and the cool shit. But with this movie, you just got them talking about the plot, and it's like it's a comic book movie. You don't have to talk about the plot so much. Just get to the fun parts. So the most popular part from this movie isn't even anything involving Deadpool. It's Channing Tatum playing Gambit with that weird, I guess, Louisiana down south accent. I'm sure you've seen it probably in a reel or a TikTok or something with him saying, I've been waiting my whole life for this."
Oh, okay.
You know, it's funny, you know, but it's like, okay. And Wesley Snipes made an appearance in it as Blaze, so that was cool.
All right, Noxzema.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, keep him, you know, with a chicken hand, I guess, you know. And I don't even, how old is Wesley Snipes? Oh, like that nigga gotta be almost 60.
Probably.
Yeah. So it was good to see him in a movie. I know now at this point, you know, it's good they passed on the franchise to Mahershala because Wesley can't do none of that shit no more.
I mean, shoot, Tom can if Tom can, you know, wreck his bat, I guess we can give Wesley a chance.
Yeah, I think Tom is on drugs though, and plus he's a Scientologist, so that might not even really be him. Like at this point, Tom Cruise probably been dead for like 10 years or some shit. I don't know. Yeah, but Deadpool vs. Wolverine was just okay. Uh, you know, if you like comic book movies, enjoy. Inside Out 2 was great. I enjoyed it. The girl grew up. Did you see the first Inside Out?
No.
Okay. Well, it's pretty much just the inside of a person. It's like it's a good movie about emotions. You know, each not each emotion, but some major emotions are highlighted like joy, anger, shame. What else? Sadness. And they just pretty much show how all the emotions go in a person and how they regulate them. So it's kind of like educational in the sense, you know, talking about like feelings and just emotional learning, you know, emotional intelligence, pretty much. So it's a deep movie. It's something parents and kids get something from. So the sequel is pretty much the same thing, but they just added more like feelings like anxiety, boredom. I think what was another one they added? Disgust. So yeah, it was a good movie. I recommend it if you ever just want to see something carefree and light and make you kind of feel good in the end. So that's my Hollywood movie corner this summer.
Well, only movie I really saw this summer in the theater anyway was a movie you recommended was Long Legs.
Yes, I wanted to see Long Legs so bad, but timing issues got in the way. How was Blair Underwood? I heard he stole the show.
Oh, he kind of played the straight man, or like, you know, kind of the stoic kind of character. He did a good job. The main sort of, I guess, shoot a scenery type performance was Nicolas Cage. You know, just bizarre performance. You know, but in a good way. You know, I saw there was some chatter online saying that it may have been some folks who were saying were concerned that it was anti-trans because of how the character's appearance, which I didn't pick up on watching it, but I'm not trans, so you know, I didn't get a Buffalo Bill effect with his character. As far as how they were trying, so as far as any conflation between like trying to say like trans folks or inherently violent or anything like that. So I didn't pick up on anything like that. To me, this was a character who, you know, was the villain basically. But who knows? But I didn't catch that. But overall, I mean, it's definitely evocative. It had definitely a mood as far as like, you know, surreal and kind of, and you know, terror basically. But overall, it's a good watch.
Okay, so you didn't feel like your time was wasted.
No.
Okay, that's good. That to me, that's the signature of a good experience going to the movie. If you feel like your time wasn't wasted, If you feel like the time you took to prepare, get in your car,
I'm
drive,
getting on my
heck,
bike.
oh yeah, yeah. If you and that's even more effort. So if you feel like your effort wasn't in vain, I feel like that's the mark of a good movie experience. If you walk away feeling like, that was cool, versus, man, I should stay my ass at home. So that's just my idea of it. Any new things you listen to this summer, or
um,
currently?
well, actually, Chloe Bailey is on another album, Trouble in Paradise, which is pretty good. I
Oh,
think I think it's more cohesive than her first album. Um, there's a couple of songs that I liked. Boy Bye was one, kind of like a bit of a pop rock edge to it. Um, it's a duet she did with her sister. I think it was which one was it? I want to say it was my favorite. Want Me. That's a good little standout one. Strawberry Lemonade, kind of like a disco pop vibe to it, which I'm a big fan of. Somebody, which is the last track. Still could have cut about. She probably could have dropped about two or three songs from it, but I think it feels more like her as an artist than the first album did. So that's one. Um, Softcore by Moses Sumney. As a kind of if you're in a kind of an alternative R&B mode. I like it's a short EP about 6 songs. I really like that one. About 20 minutes, so quick listen. Skid dropped another album about 2 months ago now. So that's one. And also Channel Trey. Most of the like he must have been doing house music, but he kind of switched it up on this one. It being more on like the R&B hip hop side, which somehow still, but it's like slightly different sound from him. So yeah, I like a couple of those. Uh, and then I do like Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga's new single. Kind of got that
I,
70s rock vibe to it anyway.
hmm, okay. So are they gonna do an album together? This is just a
I,
single.
I, I have no idea. I saw the single and I saw the video. So but I'm not sure if it's going to be a whole album or not. So I guess we'll see. But as far as I know, it's just a single right now. So um, but yeah, I think it's what I've listened to as far as music. I'm trying to think of anything else new that came out. Um, and some Tinashe, thing with Nasty, that kind of
Yeah,
helped her have a moment.
right. That's good. Yeah, I've heard that song floating out. That's why I'd be like, man, someone that was some. I don't know who started this, but there was somebody saying monoculture is dead, and I'm like, dude, monoculture is going nowhere. Like, if anything,
That might have been me.
I don't. Yeah,
I said that was fractured.
it is fractured,
Mm.
but the reality is, all of us rotate through the same five apps, and it's like so much of stuff we consume is almost on an endless loop, and it's to the point to where like the internet's made the world so much smaller, where we have a lot of the same vocabulary. Other communities, I might not be in your community, but I can learn a lot about your community or know a surface level shit that maybe a decade ago, or shit, even 5 years ago, it was in house. uh it just made the world so much smaller. But one of the good things about that is a song like that I probably would never outwardly look for to listen to, but it seeps into my world because somebody shared the reel, or I'm scrolling and it's playing in another reel.
Yeah. I I guess I agree to a point. I I think I want to say it like okay, if you asked me to name a song from Taylor Swift's new album, I couldn't do it.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah, like the new
Not one
album,
Taylor Swift's
not from a new album.
from a
Yeah.
new, yeah,
So
yeah,
so,
but
so
yeah,
but
okay.
that's what I mean though. So it's like 20 years ago, if you had said name a new song from name a song from Confessions, I probably most people probably could. Or 30 years before that, name a song that most people would say, name me a or people said, have you seen Michael's new video? People would have said, yeah, because there's only 3 channels and cable. So everybody would have had to have known about it, even if you didn't like Michael. Whereas
But
now it's like, you know,
I would say the same thing, but it just shifted from TV to like
to,
your phone now.
yeah,
Because because think about it. Those artists were like you use Michael Jackson and Usher, right? Now Usher ain't Michael Jackson,
no, no,
but he's a big artist, right? He just
mm,
did a Super Bowl performance.
mm,
So those are like artists who are like kind of like in the pop culture upper echelon. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like when they do stuff, people notice. At least with Usher and Confessions, that kind of broke the ceiling because it was just a moment, right? It was
mm,
like one of the biggest albums of the 2000s. And then Michael Jackson, I mean, he was larger than life.
mm,
So when he was in his apex, like Thriller, everybody, and then it was like you had less options then, right? Because you said it was only three major networks,
mm,
and then if you were lucky, you had cable if you had the money. But for the most part, you couldn't ignore that shit because what else could you do? But now, like you said earlier, it's fractured. But even with it being fractured, it's so much shit that seeps into like your world that you didn't even ask to see. Like I didn't ask. I still haven't seen the original clip to Very Classy, Very Very Demure. I have not seen that original clip, but it's everywhere I go, everywhere I look, even and that's the thing too. Brands now they have social media, so they see shit and they do shit that we do. So
mm.
it's a weird landscape now as far as like
I guess
how things
it,
are absorbed.
I guess what I'm saying, it seeps in, but I guess what I'm saying is like going back to someone like Michael. Like it's like if you were to ask, someone 9 years old, who Michael is, they say, yeah. If we were at his peak, even that maybe now, probably even now because Michael's Michael. But if you were to ask somebody like if in 1995, you would ask a 9-year old, like Michael Jackson is, they say, yeah. You ask 19-year-old, Michael, a 40-year-old, yeah. Some of my grandma's age. At that point, she would have been in her early 70s. And she would say, yeah, I know who Michael is, like across the generations, everybody knows who Michael is. Nowadays, if you were to ask an 80-year-old, who Taylor Swift is, maybe they know, maybe they don't,
But use Beyonce though, and the
maybe they
same effect.
know, maybe they know, maybe they don't.
They would know who Beyonce is. Everybody knows who Beyonce is. Now
Maybe.
they,
Oh,
they might not
well,
like Beyonce, but they
yeah.
know her.
Well, okay. Well, I'll use because Beyonce and Michael are they broke through in the monoculture area. So I'll use. Let me see. Think of somebody. Lil Nas X or Justin. Well, yeah, Justin Bieber because he was like towards the tail end of that. Would they
But
know? Maybe,
how
maybe
many
not.
people? But how many people knew every celebrity then anyway? Though, like it would be
Well,
people who knew.
that's what I mean. The big ones, because the thing about monoculture is it was very hard to penetrate culture because you only had so many networks,
Right.
only had so many radio stations. So if you managed to break through to the point where you were on a one name basis, say you were like a one name icon, quote unquote, then you really broke through. Like everybody had to hear about you, whether they loved you, whether they hated you. Whether you loved Whitney or hated Whitney, Michael, Janet, whoever, even movie stars, Tom Cruise, Eddie Murphy, whoever, whether you loved them or you really hated them, you knew about them because you kind of had no choice because there were only so many magazines that we all had. There's only so many TV stations that we all had. Now, you know, with the biggest stars that happen to pierce across the culture, you know, it's very possible to sort of tune them out. Even with going back to Taylor, I mean, yeah, I can name you probably maybe two or three, maybe probably I would say maybe five at most Taylor Swift songs. You know, if that, but it's possible, but it's very possible to like ignore someone's impact for the most part. mean, you may see him like on a news segment, maybe, entertainment wise or something like that. But you don't have to necessarily be inundated with their presence in the way that you had to be 30 years ago.
No, but I still think everyone has a smartphone, right?
Mhm.
Everybody got the same apps. So yeah, you don't. It's easier to, like I said, it's easier to share an experience and share something now versus back then when you had to, like, if you didn't watch a TV show in real time at that moment, then you would have to wait a whole season to watch it again. Versus now, you can just watch it in your phone. Watch it when you want to watch it. It's like it's the same shit. It just shifted.
It is, but
Like
with the TV show is like if you miss, say, the finale of a show, if you miss the episode of a show and it was a very popular show, so like Cheers or something, like, I don't know, Cosby Show, then the next day at work, everybody was gonna be talking about it over the water cooler. Did you see such and such last night? This happened. You know, Whereas now it's like I never watched Game of Thrones.
but see, that's the thing too though. Yeah, you had water cooler moments and stuff like that, but you still had those things. You never saw Game of Thrones, but Game of
That's
Thrones is one of the highest rated shows ever. It's people that say they never seen Star Wars, and Star Wars.
right. But I guess what I'm saying is like I can say I've never seen Game of Thrones because it's easy for me to be like, just to ignore because it's HBO show, but it's easy for me to say to ignore because there's so many other options for different shows. Whereas,
Right.
when a Cosby Show was on, when Cheers was on, most people didn't have cable. Or if you did, it was a select few. So most show, like, cable wasn't what it was now. So if you if a show was popular, it was popular. And if you missed it, then you knew everybody was gonna be talking about it, and you know yes, we're going to be missing out. Or it was hard, even if you didn't like the show, it was hard to ignore the fact that you knew about the show. Whereas now it's like, oh, that show's on, what channel is that? Oh, okay, maybe I'll watch it.
Yeah, but
It isn't.
social media is the new TV though.
Mm,
Like, if you observe a generation after us,
mm,
they talking TikTok. Like,
yeah,
I've seen people talking sounds, and they'll know that sound, and
mm,
it'll be like something. It'll be like another language. Like, that's their water cooler moment now. Like, you seen that video? You seen that reel? You
mm.
seen that TikTok? It's just different.
Okay,
It's
all
the
right.
same. It's just shifted, and I think we as millennials, it's kind of like we kind of like missed the old days where it was like you said, the water cooler moments and all that. But that was because shit, we didn't have no options. It's like you had to.
But I guess, yeah, I guess when I say monoculture, I mean like everybody knows. Like when you say, like you said Gen Z or Gen Alpha, TikTok. That's a very specific generation with a specific app, and like that's their water cooler. But whereas opposed to before, when it was like that was everybody's water cooler. When like No Time 25 was everybody's water cooler. Baby Boomer, Gen X, you know, Silent Generation, all that collective water cooler at the same time.
Yeah, we were watching the same shit, but
Yeah.
it's even in the moment where you absorb the same thing. Sometimes I feel like just knowing about something is almost just as big as like consuming it. Cause like you don't watch Game of Thrones, but you know what it is.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like almost the subject of it. Like it's just a different way of consuming it. Cause I know what Cheers is, but did I sit down and watch that shit? Hell no. Nah. I wasn't watching that shit. I'm sure it's some white people that know what Martin is, but they didn't watch it. They know who Martin Lawrence is, but
Mm.
they probably never watched Martin. It's certain things that become like big cultural things, and then certain things that just kind of stay in house. But it's just like I think the difference I see is the way people talk, the way people dress, the way people inhabit certain things. It's like we're all got the same brain almost. Like the way people like the mirror shit. Like back then, if you had slang, it was like specific to a region,
Yeah.
or you would have certain words that would kind of cross over. But you got people from little kids to brands saying one word because some person on the app said it. That's to me, that's the same as that's the same monoculture we had. It's just different. It's just it's weird. I would even argue that it's worse now because you could kind of like back then, like if you didn't have access to something, then it didn't really like if you had let's say you didn't have cable, right? So you couldn't see the MTV award, the VMAs if you didn't have cable. But now on apps or whatever, I don't even have TikTok. Like I said, I don't even know. I know it's a trans person that came up with this Demore trend, but I still haven't seen the original video. But I've heard all of my followers and other entities and brands say this shit and this word, and I still haven't seen the original thing. But somehow it trickled down to me in my little world where I'm like, what the fuck is this? Versus like back then where if you didn't, it was out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, I guess so. I it's more okay. I guess I put it this way. It's more connected in that way, but it's also like so many different, so many connections that it makes it harder to have a huge monocultural moment. It makes it
Okay,
more difficult. But
yeah, okay, I kind of see that. I can see that from the terms of like pop culture, maybe, right? Because
yeah,
like Inside Out is the highest grossing animated. Inside Out 2 is the I'm sorry, highest grossing animated movie. And you was like, I never seen the first one, you know. But yeah, shit like that. Like, yeah, the old way of thinking about shit. Because you would think like The Lion King. Everybody saw The Lion King, but now with so many options, something like that could break a record and make more money, but still not be seen as by as many eyes because maybe that person didn't give a fuck about it.
or like a Titanic or something like that. Yeah.
Right. I
Yeah.
think like for this generation, that shit was the Marvel stuff, and uh, you know, it's really shifted, and I guess it's because it alludes to what you said to the paradox of choice. You got all these other options versus just having to watch this one thing. So it is it's weird though. It is weird. So that's pretty much the episode in a nutshell. If y'all survived it, thank you. Thank you to us complain about politicians like that's how you know we're getting older. Like we didn't complain about shit like this when we were younger. We just was like, oh, cool, hey. But now I guess, when you get this age, I guess it is the age where you start complaining about politics and shit like that.
Well, because we hadn't lived through, the first episode, the first season of this, for us
Oh,
anyway.
yeah.
So,
Right. Back to the first point. Yeah, the first season of this shit. Like
now we have, so we can kind of look back and see, oh, we can connect the dots in the way that we couldn't, back then because we hadn't experienced that.
yeah. And like I said, like I'm not gonna open that can of worms back up, but it's just the frustration comes from seeing our peers who back then felt the same way. And I guess looking at ourselves and actually going through those experiences and then just looking at some of the patterns, connecting the dots. And then we at the same moment and they still happy, excited, giddy. And it's kind of like us being like respectfully cynical about it because we saw this movie.
Yeah.
So, well, what can you do? Hey, I mean, this is literally if you can't beat them, join them. Because I mean, I'll just say it now. I'm gonna vote for but I'm not excited. I'm not happy. I'm not a groupie. But I'm gonna do the shit. But you're not gonna see me dancing in the street if she wins.
Yeah. That's pretty much my attitude. Uh, it's happening, but so
Right. Well, that is the episode in a nutshell. Thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for joining. Thank you for all your support. We are out. I'm Uptown Bobby.
I'm K.Clark.
And keep your eyes open and your eyebrows raised. And hey, check us out next time. Y'all be safe. Love each other.